Thank you everybody for joining us. I'm Eddie Wagoner, the Digital CIO at JLL Technologies, where we're focused on accelerating innovation in commercial real estate by bringing together an end-to-end portfolio of real estate technology products and services under the same umbrella. From business intelligence platforms to smart office solutions to leading edge prop tech startups. And personally, it's the right place for me to be as corporate real estate business leaders have begun to rethink operations and how the use of prop tech technology can accelerate their ability to meet the new standards for occupants due to COVID-19. COVID's not the only thing we're dealing with in our world. The US just experienced a record-breaking hurricane season. The Western US is experiencing the worst fire season ever. Science tells us that climate change is driving these unprecedented historical events. According to one study, the built environment is responsible for about 40% of the greenhouse gases. We real estate people are face to face with some of the biggest challenges we'll ever meet in our careers. How do we create safe workplaces in a post-COVID world while reducing our impact on the environment? We've had a couple of sessions focused on COVID implications for the workplace. So today, we're going to focus on sustainability. Just as corporate real estate technology and collaboration with each other can help create a safer post-COVID world, we can also leverage real estate technology and collaboration between tenants, large investors, cities, and states to make buildings more efficient and reduce real estate's carbon footprint, while also placing wellness and safety at the forefront. The impacts of climate change are glaring, and we must come together as an industry to share key learnings on how we can reduce the environmental impact of the world's buildings. To explore this topic on a global scale, I'm very happy to be joined today by several industry-leading experts who will share their unique and global perspectives on sustainability and corporate real estate. First, Maya Aaron, Vice President of Business Development at Turntide, Andre Bothma, Growth Lead at JLL Spark, and Matt Clifford, Global Product Owner for Energy and Sustainability at JLL in Australia. Let's jump right in. Matt, I'm going to start with you. As one of our JLL global leaders in sustainability and being based in Australia, I'm going to throw you an immediate curveball and ask for your reaction to our recent announcement that JLL has committed to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2030.
Well, thanks, Eddie, and great to have the curveball straight off the bat. It's fantastic. I guess my immediate reaction is one of positivity. It's something that I'm really proud to see JLL accelerating our agenda in terms of carbon emission reductions. It's something that sitting here in Australia, what I guess I'm seeing from the outside perspective is that a lot of our clients are already on this journey, and in some ways, they're actually ahead of us. So from setting a target like this is not necessarily us being out there in front. This is actually us, keeping pace with our clients and hopefully, in some ways catching up with our clients. This is a hot topic here in Australia. This is, the net zero discussion is something that is coming up again and again, and what we're finding is that from an Australian real estate perspective, this is what is expected from a mature organization these days, and that for JLL to come out and say this, not just here in Australia but globally, this is actually really a fantastic outcome for an organization like ours to really be able to talk to our clients and say, hey, we're right there with you. We are on the same journey. We are accelerating our own emissions reductions discussions, and I honestly actually think it's very, very helpful with us to have those client conversations about, hey, we are doing this same exact work as you are also doing. Let's work together.
So I love that. You said clients multiple times in there, so I'm going to stop talking about us and focus on the clients. Talk about some of the technology-driven sustainability initiatives that you're actually seeing and working with on behalf of clients. And from your perspective, what are you seeing that's most successful in your market, and what might the investors and occupiers here in the US, but also in other countries, learn from what you guys are seeing down there?
Yeah, sure, of course. And look, obviously a lot of what we do, most of what we do, we're a very client-led organization. So, clients are at the forefront of what we're talking about, and they should be. And, to put that in perspective, I guess what we're seeing is that there's a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of our clients that are really accelerating their discussions, that are clients that are talking about how do they hit their net zero carbon goals, today or in 2025 or, in short order. From a technology perspective, I think the main point that I guess I would raise with this group is it's real time. It's how do we get more real time data? How do we get more real granular information about how are my buildings performing? How is my portfolio performing? I need to report back. Corporately, I need to report back to my investors or to my outside stakeholders. So, what are the technologies that we can do to actually, move from a very reactive way of reporting and understanding how my portfolio is performing and move into what's happening today, particularly under a COVID scenario where, let's be honest, the whole world has gone through this enormous change, this enormous upset. And I think the technology has a huge role to play around being able to say, well, a lot of things are not necessarily performing how they might have done under a different scenario, so let's look at how can these buildings perform, and let's be very, very transparent around the day-to-day of what's going on with our portfolios, and really the technology, and there's a lot of granular information there which we can get into, of course, but I think it's the move from thinking about understanding our performance in a reactive way, in a historical way, to say, well, actually what is expected these days is not to tell us what's been going on in the last 6 months, but what's been going on in the last 6 hours or 6 minutes. Let's get really, really up to date around how things are going, and let's use technology to our advantage to really understand the here and the now.
I love that. Maya, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to try to throw you a curveball too. So, and it's before I get you to build on Matt's perspective, I'm going to ask a question that I'm sure on a lot of people's minds. What do motors have to do with prop tech? We're talking about prop tech in real estate. So can you educate a lot of us on the play there?
Thank you for asking the question.
I want to know too.
Well, it's simple. Buildings, thinking from first principles, which is the way of thinking in Turntide. It's part of our culture. Buildings are living. Water moves in buildings, air moves in buildings, things move. All of these are motorized. I mean, these are systems that, at the very basis, are motors that are moving. Helping moving and helping creating that living organism. So it's not as intuitive because it's not in the room with you like lights are, but HVAC systems and lifts and everything else in the building is very much there and requires technology updates as well as other things, right? So it's the basis and the fundamentals of commercial real estate, and that's why we're here.
I appreciate that answer. I think a big takeaway for me and a lot of others of us that have been focused so much on the traditional real estate technologies is that we really need to expand our thinking beyond that as we're looking to leverage technology and prop tech in our building. So thank you. That was a great perspective. Let's build on Matt's international perspective though. And can you talk about how Turntide supports the sustainability efforts, and also what are some of the top priorities that you're seeing from your clients in the market?
Definitely. So, this is all about decarbonization. Commercial buildings are the largest energy user in the world. And when you look into that, you'll see that it's, HVAC in a large part of that. And moving air and water, like we just talked about, with, whilst leveraging 100-year-old technology to do that, is not as efficient. So we're going at the core and saying motors are 100 years older, that the motor technology that is used, you know, widely in the world is roughly 100 years old. You can't decarbonize, you know, just by reducing energy with what you have today. You have to innovate, and that's where Turn Tide is really, you know, turning the tide, if you will. And we're introducing technologies that are challenging the status quo in the motor world, thus also in energy efficiency and commercial real estate. And that's what we're all about. And that's what we're helping our clients understand. So I love what Matt said about, you know, in order to do this, you need to know where you are and what you're doing right now. Like you have to understand the realization of this technology, not only, you know, what it's supposed to be doing. And that is the essence of what we're trying to build the market. We're trying to bring not only energy, ultra efficiency and influence based on technology that is available today at good price with good return on investment, but also we're busy looking at the other side of things of how to project that to you so you know how to leverage that, you know, in decision making and better overall strategies. So we're helping decarbonizing the world. Ultimately, if all the motors in the world converted to Turn Tide systems, we will be adding 7 Amazons to the world, just Amazon forests to the world. So think about the magnitude of, you know, what we're talking about with commercial real estate.
Love that. Love that. So you're saying that if an IT person or technology person or sustainability person is not thinking about motors, they need to turn the tide and talk to you guys about the impact you can have and expand how we're thinking.
It was most definitely the lowest hanging fruit in commercial real estate today if you want a massive impact on your energy reduction.
Excellent. Andre, I'm going to come over to you. I'm going to throw you a curveball too. Maya made the case that all of us interested in prop tech need to expand our thinking. And I know that anticipating real estate tech trends is an essential part of your role within JLL's venture fund, JLL Spark. So what exciting sustainability related innovations are you seeing and thinking about in the global market today?
So I think there's so many, and I think the crisis that we have currently has really prompted companies to think differently and innovate better using same technologies in different ways. And I think one of the most exciting ones that I see currently is essentially literally the size of a Scrabble tile that companies are now using to manage their water treatment internally. So in the past, or even currently today, in all the buildings globally, we send people in vehicles to sites to go and flush water to make sure there's no stagnant buildup of water. And you know, they run those taps for 2 minutes to 5 minutes at a time on a weekly to monthly basis. And it's a lot of water wastage. It's a lot of energy wastage because you need to reheat that water. So these sensors are now being used. It's got its own, it's completely wireless with a built-in 15-year battery life, right? So it's a plug and play, and it runs reports, and it only tells you the taps that haven't been used throughout the property. So you focus on 5% of the taps rather than 100%. So that for me is pretty cool, because I think, you know, Maya mentioned about the cost of technology that's come down, right? And this has really accelerated the need for this because you can actually get an extremely good return on investment. So this is, yeah, it's probably one of the coolest things that I've seen.
Great. So we're only a few minutes in and we've already got 2 initiatives that everybody should be thinking about. So let's talk about how we help people get started with that. Matt, I'm going to come back over to you because I know you help a lot of clients get their required internal approvals for sustainability initiatives. So what advice would you give folks for getting their stakeholders to commit to some of these or other new technologies with sustainability elements? And perhaps more importantly, how do you make the case to the real estate investors and the occupiers for these investments?
Yeah, look, great question. And you know, I guess the second part of your question there around how do you make the case is that often the case for sustainability is actually very easy to make. it's an economic case, and that business case gets better and better every single day. You know, the costs of this technology that we're talking about today comes down, you know, over time, and that what we're finding is that in terms of return on investment, it is, you know, it's right there. There is no, you know, honestly, there's no better case for investment than improving energy efficiency, improving building technology. There's not a lot of returns that you can get that are 2-year payback, 3-year payback. You know, that's a 50% IRR. I don't get 50% IRR on my share portfolio, you know, but I can get that in terms of investing in buildings. So, you know, back to the first part of your question, though, of course, around the, you know, how do we help our clients get started, you know, in this space? You know, I think the answer there is have a plan. Have a plan around what are you trying to achieve. Is it a, you know, decarbonization or a net zero carbon, you know, strategy? You know, for many organizations that is very topical, of course, and we're seeing organizations, you know, accelerate that discussion. You know, in JLLs, you know, obviously you mentioned before about our announcement to, you know, move ourselves, you know, more quickly in that space. But what we're also finding is that that's not necessarily the only driver or necessarily the primary driver for others. You know, it may be, how do I keep my occupants happy if I'm an investor, and how do I keep my tenants in my building, you know, comfortable and you know, renewing their leases on time and paying the rent on time and those sorts of things. You know, we're under a pandemic. It's a global phenomenon right now. You know, there's a lot of discussions around the health and the safety and the well-being of our buildings and our building occupants, you know, right now. So what I guess the initial discussion that we tend to have with our clients is, what are your goals? You know, how can we help you achieve those goals, and how do we kind of hone in on those goals to really make sure that we're matching, you know, your issues or your problems with the relevant technology. You know, there is a tech solution for everything these days. You can find something out there that will solve every single problem that you want. You know, but what we often encounter is that, you know, our clients are kind of overwhelmed with the art of the possible. There are so many scenarios that they can be solving. So, you know, let's get really granular around what's in front of them today. What are the issues that they need to solve? Let's make sure that we're putting forward the best solutions to solve those issues, and hopefully helping move the needle for them around whatever, you know, the hot topics are for them, so that we are helping them achieve those goals. It's really honing in on those goals and objectives and being very, very clear around that.
Excellent. Maya, what about you? What about advice you would have for people wanting to make a business case or get approvals to do some motor replacement?
Well, I love what Matt said, is like, you know, having a plan. The way that, you know, we address that is, you know, how the importance of education, you know, coming from, you know, the technology vendors and the partners that, you know, we work with, et cetera, is really made for, you know, these kind of decision makers. And we're a lot of emphasis on, you know, education and training and making sure that, you know, questions answered and the business case is positioned right. So I'd say, you know, Matt, have a plan is brilliant. And I'd say, you know, seek for information because it's there, and don't and ask the right questions. Like, you know, we are here to, I mean, our company is here to actually create impact, and we want the interaction with the market. So, you know, owning that interaction instead of looking for a solution. Sometimes asking the right question brings you to the right solution, right? You know, you want to understand, and Matt said it, you know, you want to make sure that you're not following something that is, you know, just at the top of the list. You're actually solving a problem that you have, and you may not have all the you know, the tools to know what is so knowing where you know, where you are against you want to be, and also having a plan is, you know, it's okay to have a long-term and a short-term one too. I mean, maybe that helps navigate what are the very lowest hanging fruits that we want to have and we want to achieve as a first step. And first steps make a lot of other, additional steps, afterwards, and it gets you kind of involved in the discussion, a lot more educated, and having a long-term strategy after that helps you just expand your knowledge and improve, as you move forward. And we're here to help. Like I believe that vendors that are driven by the goals of sustainability are here to point you in the right direction. And you know what? I'll be honest and say, if we're not the right the right vendor, we will say so. So try this out. Try to be interact with us, right?
We've talked about clients and giving them advice for making their business case and getting their stakeholder approval. Andre, I'm going to bring it back over to you. What suggestion would you give to real estate technology companies about having these conversations in a productive fashion with their existing and even potential customers?
Yeah, so I think, going back to what Matt and Maya said about the client goals and the sort of chart of the client, I think there's actually so many different stakeholders in a building. You've got your investor, you've got your occupier, you have your managing agents, you've got your soft service and hard service providers, and it's actually trying to look at everyone's goals in the building and seeing if your product can not just necessarily suit the occupier or the investor, could it form part of the service for any of the service providers, right? Because if your technology can add value or solve problems that don't necessarily increase the service charge, it's obviously a much quicker return on investment, much easier to sell. And that's how we've introduced a lot of our companies throughout the organizations that we work in, is to try and see that, simplify your solution, understand the case study, and try and solve one problem at a time. Don't try and solve all the problems at once. And that's been successful. I think if you include all the stakeholders, not just specific targeted ones, traditional ones.
Excellent feedback. Let's keep this conversation going on giving people tools that they can use in their sustainability efforts. And Maya, I want to go back to something you said about education. I know Turntide invests in educating business leaders on the heightened importance of sustainability and altering their approach. So based on your experience, what value do the trainings offer and how can they benefit the broader organization's sustainability efforts?
Impacting a market, disrupting a marketplace means that, education is fundamental, moving people from what they're used to new technology is a difficult task, and it can't be all about us. It's about the goal of our goal as a collective, and I think that's the basis of what we're trying to achieve. A lot of the training that Turntide offers today is about the importance of sustainability, period. It's not about motors, it's not about fans and pumps, it's about how to create these goals in your company, right? What is a long-term and what is a short-term goal? A lot of that is about, how do you look at a project that is not only, and Andre just said it, a lot of these projects have impact on different parts of the business. So how do you make sure you don't walk into a situation you're actually actively doing the right thing, right? And you may not know that. And then the third part of that is, how do you generate the understanding of collaboration? So there are a lot of overlaps with technology. A clear one is the world of IoT is, everything is IoT today. How do you make sure you don't build or invest in things that you already have, right? It's really about that, and what types of collaborations in the marketplace can we offer to make it the best investment on your side? Technology is cheaper every year, and more collaborations are easier on cloud infrastructure, and we want to educate on that. It may not even be it may not even end up in getting the most efficient motor in the world, but it would very well be a better way to implement, you know, the tile chip that Andre just showed. So it's about showing what is possible, and providing solutions that create value. Look for value versus a specific solution, and the solutions are, you know, when you understand the value that you want to have on the building, on the portfolio, from a vendor, creating a solution suite afterwards is the easy part.
Excellent. Let's turn our attention a bit to some different perspectives, and Matt, I'm going to come to you. I know the Australian government has played a role in sustainability efforts in your country. So from your perspective, what role do you think governments around the world could play in encouraging real estate sustainability based on your experience?
Look, interesting question, and I guess the first part of that is, you know, hey, I'm not going to tell anybody who to vote for in the upcoming election. You know, that's not some Australian guy sitting halfway around the world. That's not my job. But you know, I guess you know, probably a perspective on that is that, you know, maybe the natural response is that, you know, does government have a role to play in assisting business? You know, maybe not. People kind of tend to think that that's you know, government's going to get in the way of business. And you know, I'll tell you a quick story, if you'll indulge me. Is you know, probably about 15, maybe even 20 years ago, you know, the Australian government said, hey, we're going to set up a reporting scheme that tells us how buildings are performing, and we'll make it totally voluntary. We'll make it very easy to use. It's called NABERS. It's basically, it's a scheme around, you know, energy performance, water performance, things like that. Now, in many ways, it's not dissimilar to, you know, to Energy Star that our friends in the US are probably more, you know, familiar with. So it's an easy to engage with program. It doesn't cost a lot of money. And so the scheme's been around for a long time. And then, you know, maybe about 5 or perhaps 10 years ago, the government said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to actually mandate that if you're selling or you're leasing a building, you have to have a rating. You don't have to have a good rating. You don't have to have a bad rating, but you have to have a rating. And, you know, a small, minimal interventionist kind of policy program like that has actually really shifted the entire real estate landscape. And what I mean by that is nobody wants to sell or lease a crappy building. You know, nobody wants to say, hey, here's my fantastic building. I want you to pay top dollar for the rent or for the sale of that. But by the way, it's a 0-star building. You know, people naturally, you know, the competition comes into play, and naturally that sort of drive towards making things better comes into play. So the government, through this, you know, fairly minimal interventionist policy, you know, low cost, not difficult, has made this issue around transparency mandatory. And you know, let me tell you what's happened is that the building stock, you know, the buildings that we work with every day have gotten better. You know, people have naturally moved to say, well, I'm going to make that building better, and I'll make it better through technology. I'll make it better through better motors or better, you know, automation or better tech, whatever it is that makes a building, you know, perform better. But nobody wants to be out there trying to sell or to lease a crummy building with a 0-star rating. They want to be moving the needle further. And, you know, from a leader's perspective as well, when we talk to our clients that are absolute leaders in this space, it increases competition. You know, so those folks that are saying, hey, I want to be known for my sustainability performance. I want to be known for my, you know, forward-thinking advice and that sort of thing. It pushes them further, it pushes them to move, you know, more quickly. So there's things like that the government here in Australia has done that has spurred that really positive outcome. And, you know, I think there are, you know, strategies like that could be employed around the world, you know, in the US or elsewhere, to say, well, you know, actually government intervention into the real estate sector doesn't have to be heavy-handed. It doesn't have to be cost prohibitive or complicated. It can actually spur the right outcomes if it's well thought through, you know. So, and particularly now under a pandemic scenario, there's a very interesting, you know, kind of conversation that we're having with clients around not just energy performance or carbon reduction, but also things like healthy buildings. You know, are we tracking and monitoring, you know, the air quality in our buildings? Are we tracking and monitoring those sort of parameters? You know, the technology, again, it exists for these issues. You know, it's out there. It's not costly. It's not difficult. You know, so let's utilize that technology. Let's use that as a lever to be able to attract people back to the workplace, to be able to say, hey, we want you to come back into the office or into the shopping mall or into the, you know, whatever it is. And, you know, by the way, here's this information, that full transparency, here's how the building's performing, and you know, guess what? It's safe for you to do so.
To paraphrase an old movie line, you had me at increased value. I think a lot of people hearing that, where you just said from your experience, investors are seeing the values of the building with the better ratings increasing because people want to be in those buildings. You know, that's a very key takeaway and a very good rationale for why people should want to do these types of initiatives. Andre, let me come to you and get your thoughts, not on my use of the movie line, but on what Matt said.
I guess I think that's great insights. The only thing that I probably would mention that's slightly looking a little bit more at your supply chain and how you bring products into the country. And I think that, you know, there's some really good guidelines. And I found, especially working with our companies that are, our technology companies that are globally, it's very clear that in different countries, you obviously have a different rule and there's different ways of bringing product and procuring product into buildings. And it had an impact in how the technology can be deployed. So let's use Maya's product as an example, where obviously the ideal sweet spot for them is having a very inefficient motor in industry that's not already efficiently driven down by a different technology. And we found that the European market is very, probably about 5 to 10 years ahead when it comes to trying to replace existing and outdated technology. And that has a direct impact in how the government's actually procuring product and giving you the ability to bring product into buildings. And I think that's a good example where we feel that sometimes countries like perhaps the US isn't as advanced when it comes to bringing the right product in from day one.
Excellent. Maya, let's come to you for your perspective. Is there a productive way that governments could encourage the adoption of sustainability measures in real estate? And if so, what do you think that would look like?
Well, for us, you know, we've had a really great examples where, you know, either government or, you know, utility are driving adoption by, you know, rebate programs and by, you know, offering incentives. You know, you can see that very, very, you know, there are many utilities across the United States that are extremely active and actually pay for a lot of these upgrades and they measure kWh. It's good for us because we can prove realized savings because of the, you know, the fact that we're digital and we have the monitoring. But, you know, outside of the US as well, there are governments that have, you know, put aside very large sum of funds. You can see this in, you know, in the Middle East. You can see this as, you know, pledge and have pledged to reduce, you know, energy efficiency as a country in those fashions. And they accelerate the adoption for and it comes across in supply chain and it comes across in, you know, incentives and rebates, and it takes time, but it's extremely effective. So.
Excellent. So one last question, and this is to get everyone's perspective on whether, I was going to ask whether you think sustainability will be a key factor in how buildings are designed and operating moving forward. And I'm betting the answer from everybody is going to be yes, it will. So talk to me about why it will be. Give people some key takeaways on how it will be a key factor in design and operations moving forward. let's just open it up. Whoever wants to go first and do a little bit of some hot takes here.
I can go. So I actually see this as sustainability being a prerequisite moving forward in almost everything that we do. And so in commercial real estate, and prop tech is one. I see it as a must-have for technology companies developing any type of technology. I see it as a must-have for all verticals moving forward to have a, you know, it's as easy as having a checkbox, but it's that consideration of sustainability. And you can see that it hasn't historically been a requirement, you know, in any vertical. So you see this as my belief is that this is going to become, you know, a very regular barrier of entrance, right, to any type of new innovation, to drive, you know, our resiliency. And this year has been a great example of what needs to be, you know, changed, what evolutions need to be accelerated for us to be stronger, to be, you know, stronger in every way. And climate is a huge one, but, you know, health is a second one, and there are multiple you know, areas where thinking in a sustainable, very cost-effective, efficient based, right? You want more from what you're making. Is going to be a prerequisite for any new innovation or any new process in the world, in my opinion. Again, these things take time, but I see this happening, right, in tech very much so.
Excellent. Matt or Andre?
Maybe I'll jump in next and you know, kind of build on what Maya is saying. There is you know, I've been around the sustainable real estate game for quite a long time, and, you know, long enough to remember what happened under the last global economic crisis, you know, under the 10, 12 years ago. And, you know, what happened then was that, you know, a lot of things did slow down. You know, a lot of organizations who'd made commitments around decarbonization or improving their sustainability performance, you know, kind of gradually and maybe a little quietly started to walk away from that. And, you know, leading into this year, there was a lot of discussions with, you know, my team and colleagues that are in this space is, are we going to see the same thing? You know, and I guess the really positive story there is absolutely not. You know, what we've seen is that organizations have doubled down on their commitments around decarbonization. They've said this is really important. You know, yes, this is a challenging year for lots of reasons, and, you know, in many ways, buildings are now very, very different. People are working from home, and we need to, you know, think really, you know, creatively around how we can utilize those buildings. But that commitment around decarbonization and around making organizations more sustainable is so much more pressing, you know, and companies are saying, how do we accelerate? You know, there's a great discussion to be had around the use of technology to continue that acceleration strategy. But, you know, really kind of a fundamental question to me, or a fundamental comment maybe, is that, you know, nobody's walking away from those commitments. You know, people are saying it's so important, you know, once we get through the current crisis, the current, you know, situation that we're in, hey, climate change is still going to be there, you know, and even if that doesn't resonate with every organization, the business case for sustainability is still going to be there. You know, the economics around why you would make your building more energy efficient, why you would drive towards decarbonization, there is no better return on investment that you can make right now.
Yeah, just you know, to reiterate that point, I think, you know, when this sustainability conversation started, technology wasn't as you know, as making the ROI case was harder. And I guess, you know, Moore's law, over the years, technology has become more and more, it makes the business cases becoming more and more attractive. And I see, you know, a very, let's say, a good correlation between, you know, sustainability that was once a thing that you want to be associated with, but didn't have a financial stance to it, to the survival mode, to be more efficient, period, operationally, and to be more profitable. There's a correlation between profit and sustainability. And I think that that is the main change in the last years, that will push that keeps it at the top of mind and, you know, top of the agenda.
Excellent.
I think I think the only maybe a slightly different spin on this as well could be that from an employer point of view, I think the new generation and millennials would expect, you know, from a talent resourcing point of view, right? Businesses, these people would want to join organizations that take this as serious as the key stakeholders in the industry. And I think it's important to understand that if they expect to work in those environments, like you're as an organization, you're going to attract the best talent to work for you, because it's just going to be expected from people.
Excellent. I've been keeping notes as we've talked, and I think there are four, at least I've got four big takeaways. So let's see how you guys react to this. One of my key takeaways was a lot of us technologists need to think beyond what we've traditionally thought about from a technology perspective. And Maya and Andre, you both brought new technologies into play that are outside that traditional real estate technology subset. So that's takeaway number one. Takeaway number two for me was we all need to get more training. So ask. Maya, you talked about training programs. Andre and Matt, you both talked about, you know, educating ourselves on some of these. So it's okay to reach out to the people on this webinar or others in the industry and just be inquisitive. It increases value. And I think multiple people made the point, our occupants, Andre, you referenced millennials and people who care about sustainability are going to demand that even more from their companies. Their companies are going to look for that in buildings, which means it's incumbent upon the investors. It'll increase their value. And I think the last thing that I heard in this last segment is predictions that the trends are going to accelerate. And so focus now and get the effort to have the benefit. So, you know, I think the big conclusion is now more than ever is the time for all of us to join together as an industry and help each other to change how we approach sustainable efforts for our world's buildings. We know many corporations are making multi-year sustainability commitments, and speaking on behalf of this team, we'd love to continue discussing, collaborating, and helping each other on this journey as we lead our people and our industry into a safer and healthier tomorrow. Thank you to the panelists and to everybody who attended for joining this conversation on sustainability in real estate, and we look forward to your feedback and to continued engagement. Thank you.